Matt DiBenedetto has not begun discussing his future plans for the 2022 season, and in very surprising fashion, Keelan Harvick is going to be racing in the Pro Invitational Series race tonight. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We have a couple NASCAR stories to discuss here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight to it. Let's go ahead and start off with all the paint scheme and sponsor news. Let's go ahead and start off with Live Fast Motorsports tribute to Red Farmer, as this weekend they're going to be honoring Red Farmer at Talladega Superspeedway with BJ McLeod driving this car. This is a really, really awesome tribute to Red Farmer. This race is starting to become a miniature throwback race to basically becoming a second throwback race. This is a really, really awesome paint scheme, and it's a really awesome tribute to Red Farmer. Red Farmer being one of the original members of the Alabama gang. This is really, really, really awesome, and I cannot wait to see this paint scheme out on the racetrack this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway. The next paint scheme and sponsor news we're going to take a look at is FOE, as Justin Haley is going to have the colors of the FOE, the Credentials Order of Eagles scheme that he's ran multiple times in the Xfinity Series when he ran in the Truck Series for a couple years. He's had his paint scheme for quite some, and it is returning on his car once again. This paint scheme looks awesome. It just looks like what I've wanted image the car to look like. It's really awesome, and I cannot wait to see it out on the racetrack this weekend here at Talladega Superspeedway. The next paint scheme of sponsors we're going to take a look at is Colin Garrett's 2021 11-11 scheme that we will see this weekend here in the Xfinity Series at Talladega Superspeedway. This paint scheme is awesome. It looks really, really cool, and I'm really excited to see what Colin Garrett can do. It's been a little bit since Colin Garrett's race. It's really awesome. He's going to be racing in the Xfinity Series, and hopefully he can do very, very well here at Talladega Superspeedway. The final paint scheme to sponsors we're going to take a look at is a throwback paint scheme, as Jeffrey Earnhardt is going to be running a throwback to when Dale Earnhardt ran that Olympic paint scheme back in 1986, I think during the All-Star race. Jeffrey Earnhardt is going to be running a throwback to that this weekend, in a weekend or two, at Darlington in the Xfinity Series with the number 0 car. This is an awesome, awesome tribute. It just looks very, very similar to what Dale Earnhardt's paint scheme looked like, and it's a really fitting tribute to Dale Earnhardt. This paint scheme looks really cool, and what's crazy is that the Olympics are happening in 93 days, so the Olympics are happening this year, which is why I think this paint scheme has a lot more significance than a lot of people realize. This is an awesome paint scheme, and I cannot wait to see it out on the racetrack this weekend here, in a couple weeks here at Darlington Superspeedway. And now we're going to jump onto all the other stories for today's episode. Let's go and just jump straight into this. As we talked about yesterday, it was announced from Jerry Jordan for KKTires.net that Corey Heim was going to be making his NASCAR Truck Series debut at Darlington National. Well, we got official confirmation Kyle Busch Motorsports today that Corey Heim is going to be driving 2 races for Kyle Busch Motorsports. Like I said, he'll be making his Truck Series debut at Darlington Superspeedway, and also be racing October at Martinsville Speedway, driving the number 51 once again for Kyle Busch Motorsports. Corey Heim, for those who don't know, has 2 career ARCA Series victories. He won the season finale at Kansas and backed it up in 2021 by winning the Daytona season opener, and he's the current points leader. And he's also currently a Toyota Race and Development driver. I think that this is a very, very excellent opportunity for Corey Heim. Corey Heim is an absolute wheelman. He's done really good in ARCA. I think he's the only one that really is going to have any sort of competition for Ty Gibbs in the NASCAR ARCA, well, in the ARCA Series Championship this year. I think that he has a really good shot at contending with this truck. This truck has been contending in a lot this year. I think they've won the last 4 straight races, the organization Kyle Busch Motorsports, and this truck's been able to go to victory lane twice so far this year, once at Kyle Busch and once at Mark Truex Jr., and they have a very good depth and very awesome lineup that is driving that truck this year. As for Corey Heim, like I said, I think he's a very, very excellent driver, and I think that he will have a very good shot overall of running up front in that race. I think he's going to do very, very well in both his races, and I'm wishing him the best of luck. I think his goal is to try to win and just also try to get experience, because if he does well enough, he might be up for consideration to drive this truck in 2022. We'll have to wait to see, depending on how his performance are in these 2 races. If he wins one of these races, I think that there's a very good chance that Corey Heim could be taking over this truck here with 18 truck, especially if guys like Chandler Smith start struggling, and especially if John Nemechek maybe also goes up to the Cup Series here in the coming years with the rumors of 2311 Racing. There's a chance that Corey Heim takes over, but this is a really awesome opportunity for Corey Heim, and I'm wishing him the best of luck for sure in his Truck Series debut and his upcoming races here in the NASCAR Truck Series. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the starting lineups for the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series, as they will be racing this weekend here at Talladega Superspeedway. Let's go ahead and start off with the Xfinity Series, as Austin Cindric is going to be starting on the pole at Talladega Superspeedway. Josh Berry's winner at Martinsville, he will be starting 6th. My pick for the Xfinity Series is going to be Justin Haley. Justin Haley has been really good on the Superspeedway tracks at Talladega and Daytona, and I think Justin Haley is going to win his first race of 2021 in the NASCAR Xfinity Series at Talladega Superspeedway. And now we're going to go ahead and jump onto the Cup Series starting lineup for Talladega. Denny Hamlin, he is going to be starting on the pole for that race. Alex Bowman, who won, will be starting 5th. Now, my pick going in that, we'll find out here on my channel tomorrow when I do the race picks. But those are the starting lineups for the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series. Like I said, Austin will start on the pole for Xfinity, and Cup is going to be Denny Hamlin. As I'm currently editing today's video, a massive news story just broke from Adam Stern today regarding infield access. We have been talking about infield access, that NASCAR has been looking to bring back the pressure from teams that they want to bring infield access back to NASCAR. Well, we just got a massive news report today. So according to Adam Stern, NASCAR has informed industry stakeholders on how many guests they'll be allowed to bring back to the garage on pit road, starting with 4 guests per car and 2 per driver, starting at Darlington per sources. He also said that OEMs will get 3, tracks will get 10, and NASCAR will get 20, for a total of around 275 people. I think that's a pretty fair number. We've been reporting that NASCAR has been kind of looking at the single-digit numbers for guests to come back. I think as time goes on, we are going to see more people allowed into the infield. As more people continue to get vaccinated, more people are going to be allowed in the infield. I expect that you're going to have to for sure be vaccinated to be allowed to be able to go into the infield access, to be on pit road and stuff. I think, but in all honesty, I think that this is a really good direction, and we are starting to slowly but surely get back to normal. Though it's going to be a while before we officially get back to normal, we're kind of starting to head into the right direction. This is really, really awesome news for sure. And also a really good number to start, by the way. I really thought they were only going to like maybe 1 or 2 guests per. They're up to 4 or 5, which I think it's really, really surprising that they're jumping up to the number that quickly. Because NASCAR said that they want to get everything moving really, really quickly. This is really, really awesome news for sure. And hopefully very, very soon, everything will get back to normal for NASCAR. And hopefully by the end of the year, everything is officially back to normal. And now we're going to jump on to the first of 2 major stories of today's episode, as we are going to go ahead and talk about the NASCAR Pro Invitational Series tonight. The entry list was revealed tonight. Now, there's a couple of things to know before we get into the major part of this. So, we had that fan vote that took place. There were a lot of drivers that opened up for that fan vote. You had drivers like Josh Berry, Roger Carruth, Ryan Vargas, and Jesse Iwuji who were competing in that to get in the fan vote. Well, according to NASCAR, Jesse Iwuji was the winner of the fan vote. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm really happy that Jesse won. I'm a huge fan of Jesse Iwuji. I like him a lot. He's not the best driver in the world, but what he's been able to do, he serves in the Navy. He's a really awesome dude, and he's a very good and awesome dude overall. But the thing is, I'm really surprised considering Roger Carruth and Ryan Vargas seemed like they had a lot more people that were going for him, and also Josh Berry and Justin Allgaier who were in that as well. I'm very surprised Jesse Iwuji won, but I want to congratulate him overall. So it was also reported that Kurt Busch and originally Chase Briscoe were not going to be competing in this event. Kurt Busch is still at this moment not going to be competing in this Pro Invitational Series race. But Chase Briscoe, who originally wasn't going to compete, is actually going to be competing in the Pro Invitational, as announced late last night as a car was shown on Twitter. He will officially be competing in that as well. It's also noted, I guess, the test basically ended up finishing up early. Christopher Bell has Ty Gibbs on standby just in case, but I think Christopher Bell should be competing in tonight's event as well. But there was one name on the list of the drivers that were racing in a Pro Invitational that really surprised me. Keelan Harvick. That's right. Keelan Harvick will be driving the number 62 for Stewart-Haas Racing in this Pro Invitational Series event. 8 years old. Keep that in mind. What's really interesting, like I mentioned, is Keelan Harvick is 8 years old and was born in 2012. I'm pretty sure the iRacing terms of service says you have to be 13 years or older to be part of it. So I'm very surprised that Keelan Harvick is going to be able to do this, considering he's taken the place of Ryan Preece, who's done really well in the Pro Invitational. I am very surprised that Keelan Harvick is getting an opportunity over some other drivers in this field. But I think it's really, really funny and really, really awesome at the same time. They have Keelan Harvick, who's going to be racing his dad in this event. This is so awesome. And not only that, I've heard that Keelan Harvick actually is a pretty decent sim racer when he gets behind the ring in a sim. So that's really, really awesome to see. I am very, very surprised, and I'm really like what the Pro Invitational in certain ways is doing, bringing drivers like Keelan Harvick into the event, making a race. Maybe at some point we'll get Brexton Busch to be racing this. Maybe at some point we get Cash Boyer to race in this. Who really knows? Because you got Clint Boyer's racing event, you got Dale Jr. And I just find it really crazy to think that Keelan Harvick, of all people, is getting an opportunity. When I saw this yesterday, I had to double check to make sure. I'm like, Keelan Harvick is racing this event? I think when a lot of people were really, really surprised. But I think it's really, really funny, and he'll be competing in tonight's event, which, by the way, the second race, Pro Invitational, is coming up tonight, which I'm definitely excited for. 70 laps at Talladega Superspeedway. That race is definitely going to be fun. I don't know if I'm going to talk about the race at the end of the night. We'll have to see. But I found it really crazy and interesting that Keelan Harvick is going to be racing a Pro Invitational. That really surprised me more than anything, and it's really, really incredible that he will be making, as Kevin Harvick announced. And it's crazy to think that Kevin Harvick is announcing that his son is going to be racing the Pro Invitational. That is really cool for sure. And now we're going ahead and jump onto the final major story of today's episode, as we're going to go ahead and talk about Matt DiBenedetto. Last week, I talked about how Matt DiBenedetto might be returning to Ford and driving for one of the Ford's organizations, as he quote tweeted about the next-gen car. Now, apparently, according to Matt DiBenedetto, apparently it's not true right now that he will be returning to a Ford organization. According to what he said in an interview with the media yesterday, he says that there is no discussion yet on his plans for the 2022 season and is letting the results speak for themselves. I'm going to be honest with you. I am a little bit surprised that Matt DiBenedetto has not had any sort of discussions going forward for the 2022 season, is only letting the results speak for themselves. In my opinion, I know Matt DiBenedetto is a driver that kind of has struggled for sponsorship over the last couple of years. But in my opinion, I'm a little bit shocked and surprised that he's not tried to go out there and speak for himself, especially since we know since last year, because we now know, we basically knew in October when it was announced he was going to be returning, that Austin was going to be taking over the 21 car. I'm very surprised because he's the only one right now that we know for sure is not going to be returning to the ride. I'm a little bit shocked and surprised right now that Matt DiBenedetto is not going to be returning, has not even had discussions going forward for 2022. I thought that there may have been some sort of discussions going on, especially with Ford, but I guess we don't know anything at this moment as things continue to go on. But I think that there is potential with few teams, and he basically talked about the results as well on the racetrack. Again, Matt DiBenedetto, he's got a lot of work to do. He definitely had a really bad start here, but the last couple of weeks, he's definitely been improving. The finishes have been definitely get better. He had a solid bounce back after a pretty great start at Martinsville. He bounced back after getting involved in that big one. He bounced back to a top 15 or top 20 run. And this past week, he got his first official top 10. I think the momentum is starting to build. He's in the top 20 the points finally. He's starting to really come into his own, and I think that as the year goes on, he's going to get better. But I think that discussions are really behind the scenes, could be happening. And there's a few teams that I think that Matt DiBenedetto could end up going to here in the foreseeable future. The first team is Roush Fenway Racing. Now, right now, Ryan Newman his contract ends at the end of the 2021 season. And there have been talks, but there have been rumors that Ryan Newman could retire at the end of the 2021 season. Now, Matt, that team has definitely improved this year so far in 2021. Chris Buescher is right around that playoff cutoff line, and Ryan Newman is around in the top 20 points. I know Richard didn't go fantastic for the Roush Fenway Racing camp, but they've had some pretty strong performances so far at Roush. That team is up swinging. They've made some moves over that organization. That could be where he goes to if that ride becomes available, if Ryan Newman is retired at the end of this year. The second ride that could end up becoming available is at Chip Ganassi Racing. I've been kind of 50-50 whether Kurt Busch could retire or not. Kurt Busch also sent out a teaser recently, at the beginning of the year, of him basically teasing at the fact that he could retire at the end of this year. It's not confirmed. He's talked about he wants to race the next-gen car. But again, that was back in 2019 when they were supposed to debut the next-gen car originally in 2021. Now it's going to be pushed to 2022. I'm not sure if Kurt Busch is going to drive it. So that could be where Matt DiBenedetto goes, but I'm not putting that as the most likely. The third ride is at Stewart-Haas Racing, driving the number 10 car. Eric Almirola's contract ends at the end of this year, and this past year, even though Smithfield has been committed to Eric Almirola for the past 10 years, since around 2012, Eric Almirola lost some races. Originally, Smithfield has had about 30 to 32 races usually. With Eric Almirola, they dropped that number to 25 races. And if Eric Almirola's performance don't get better, even though this week he had his best run of the year, finishing 6th, if Eric Almirola doesn't continue to improve like he's been the last couple weeks, I think Eric Almirola could be out of that ride, but there's a chance that Stewart-Haas Racing could remain the same as well. The final ride and one of the more likely ones, including the Roush one, one of the most likely that I've been potentially hearing is 2311 Racing. 2311 Racing over the last couple years, they have been talking about that they could be expanding here in the coming years. As a matter of fact, they have been talking about that they're looking for a major investment in $9 to $16 million, and they're looking to upgrade to potentially 2 or 3 cars here, even starting next year. So they're talking about expanding to 2 or 3 cars even as early as next year. And I know there's a lot of drivers that are in that pipeline, like Harrison Burton, John Hunter Nemechek, Brandon Jones, Ty Dillon's even been in the conversation. But Matt DiBenedetto's name has been brought up because he's really good friends with Denny Hamlin. He and Denny Hamlin have a really good relationship and a really good friendship as well. So that is where he could end up going here in the next couple years. I think the 2 most likely rides where Matt DiBenedetto is going to go, I think he's either going to go to another 2311 car, the second 2311 car, like the number 45 or the 32, which would be crazy because he used to drive the number 32 car when he was over at Go Fast Racing. Or he's going to go over to Roush Fenway Racing and take over to 6. I think that Matt DiBenedetto is going to end up at one of those 2 rides here coming forward. Again, we'll have to keep watching and see as go on if Ryan Newman does return and what 2311 plans are going to be going forward. But I think he'll end up at one of those 2 rides that I mentioned. So we'll have to watch and see, but once again, I am a little surprised that Matt DiBenedetto hasn't even had the contract talks and has not been talking about. I guess he's been focused on the 2021 season and trying to get to the playoffs. I think if he wins a race, those definitely will help, and he's really good at Talladega, so we'll have to watch and wait and see. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because I think it's really important that Matt DiBenedetto has not talked about his future plans going forward for the 2022 season. So, anyway, that is going to be for today's NASCAR news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications so you can be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support my Patreon as well. Links are below for that, and combo your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts about Matt DiBenedetto's future? Do you think his future is uncertain, or do you think he's for sure going to find a ride going forward into the 2022 season? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about Keelan Harvick racing in the Pro Invitational, and will he have an issue in the Pro Invitational? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like so YouTube can recommend more of these great videos out to you guys. Do that, I would greatly and truly appreciate it. Anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time. Tonight, we got the Pro Invitational at Talladega Super Speedway. Make sure to check that out this evening.